Hey guys, good to see you back on the channel. So I've been away for a few days. I had some personal issues that needed to be taken care of, and that's all right now. We're back with a news roundup of Battlefield 6, what's going on around the franchise, and we're going to talk about the Gauntlet mode today. We've got some new information from Temporal. We're going to go over movement of Battlefield 6. Apparently the movement's getting tweaked just a bit, but some people like Enders are just panicking over this, and they believe that the game is just literally going down the drain because the movement is getting nerfed and all those kind of stuff, which in reality isn't really true. And a developer actually had to come out and just talk about this, calm people down, and explain that no change to movement nor any other thing will be drastic, and it will be basically far from drastic. So those are the things we're going to talk about today. Without further ado, guys, let's go ahead and start the video. All right, so first of all, here's the developer. He's called Florian, and he just basically explains that the changes are not going to be anything near drastic. So let's go ahead and see what he has to say. It's difficult to give a feel of what we're doing through a blog post, but the movement changes are far from drastic. There are very localized adjustments to specific parts of movement where things could get too extreme. We want to retain depth/skill expression with movement. Movement is also getting more responsive in general in places that have felt a bit clunky before, so there's a lot more that is getting quality improvements/polish in this same area. Adding diminishing returns to jumping is what we're actually doing. An initial slide or an initial jump will not be affected. This is a balancing act. We believe that movement was in a pretty good spot, but some tuning in specific extremes was needed. So in my opinion, that's completely okay. And this entire thing actually started from Enders. I'm not really used to talk about other creators, but this time Enders was just having an outrage in one of his streams. I believe he started calling people names, people who actually wanted to, nerf the movement just a bit so people can't actually use exploits. You see people on the open beta just jumping non-stop, jumping and sliding non-stop. That is some sort of exploit. We're not talking about Zuzu and Vuzu from Battlefield 4. If something like this exists in the game, in this time and age, they will fix it and you can't do anything about it. So he was basically calling people names and stuff, a basic outrage, and then he removed the entire video on YouTube so no one can have anything against him, I guess. That all started from him thinking that they are completely just destroying the movement. However, let's take a look at the Gauntlet. Let's see what we have about that, and then we're going to talk about the Open Beta Debrief, a small article that we have. We're going to read through that, and finally we're going to take a look at some statistics, and that's going to be it. So about Gauntlet, it uses the same exact battle royale map. You're going to have 4 missions per match. You're going to have various mission types like capture the flag and more. You're going to have modifiers like sudden elimination. Custom settings via portal is also available, and it's going to be likely just free to play, just like the battle royale. So Gauntlet is very interesting. It actually puts squads directly against each other. In my opinion, it sits between the multiplayer parts of Battlefield and the battle royale. It's somewhere in between, less chaotic, more squad focused, those kind of stuff. But let's take a look at the open beta debrief. We have some interesting stuff here. So for the initial learnings and in-game changes, we're going to start with weapons. We're making targeted adjustments to deliver a more consistent and rewarding gunplay experience. This includes a general pass on recoil and tapfire characteristics across all weapons, further emphasizing their unique feel and improving range differentiation. We've also made changes to encourage more controlled tap firing and burst firing, rewarding precision and weapon mastery. Additionally, the M87A1 shotgun now requires more pellets to secure a kill. We are investigating the time to kill and time to death experiences, and we will share an update if definitive changes are made in these areas. So about the shotgun and about the recoil, first of all, the shotgun has to be able to kill people in close range, right? We have no problem with that. But the problem with the shotgun was that it could kill people sometimes in longer ranges, in ranges that it wasn't really intended. So they're actually increasing the amount of pellets that's needed to secure a kill, and in my opinion, that's the perfect way to just kind of balance the shotgun, because you can't just miss pellets in close range. You're going to get that one-shot kill. But if you're aiming for longer ranges, you either have to use the slug, or if you're using buckshot or a flechette, you can't just get a one-shot kill. Okay, so in my opinion, that's a good balance. And for the recoil, in my opinion, it could benefit from some balancing changes. But at the beginning of my playthrough, I thought the weapons are having no recoil basically. But the more I started playing and the more weapons I actually gained experience with, I realized that we have recoil, but it's not like intense in like Battlefield 2042, for example, because 2042 has some sort of, visual recoil that kind of multiplies the felt recoil. Let me put it like this. The weapon recoil in 2042 isn't really that much, but the visual recoil actually makes it kind of seem like you have a lot of recoil. That wasn't the case for Battlefield 6 Open Beta. The weapons had actual recoil, but the visual recoil wasn't there, which in my opinion was cool, honestly. Let's talk about movement, and this is where things get interesting. Movement mechanics have been adjusted to create a more balanced and traditional Battlefield experience. Momentum, especially horizontal speed, carried from a slide into a jump has been reduced. There is now a greater penalty for consecutive jumps, which lowers jump height when jumps are spammed. Firing while jumping or sliding will result in increased inaccuracy. These changes are designed to make sliding and jumping more situational, so they are no longer ideal options for engaging in gunfights and will contribute to a gameplay pace that rewards skillful movement without becoming too fast or unpredictable. Parachute physiques have also been retuned with reduced initial acceleration when opening the parachute for more controlled aerial movement. So in my opinion, there's really nothing wrong with this movement stuff. Let me tell you what they are trying to nerf, okay? Just take a look at this video. This is someone who uses the exploit of unlimited slide and mixes it with some sort of, jumping in between. And this is even worse than Battlefield 2042's bunny hopping. This is just worse. If you want this in Battlefield 6, in my opinion, you're basically crazy because this shouldn't really be allowed. So this is what these guys are trying to avoid, okay? They try things to be as grounded as possible without destroying the movement. And as Florian said, there is nothing so drastic to the point where it destroys the movement. So no worries about that. About maps, we observed some players finding a way to reach rooftops and venture out of bounds. This gameplay is not intended for these maps, and the upcoming ladder for the Assault class is also not designed to access these areas. We're actively working on adjustments to prevent unintended access and ensure gameplay stays within the intended boundaries. We also heard strong feedback from players excited by the larger scale maps that Battlefield has to offer. While the open beta featured smaller, more fast-paced maps, larger scale maps are already part of our launch package, delivering action-packed gameplay and memorable, unique moments for every player. As part of the upcoming Battlefield Labs testing, we'll be testing 2 new multiplayer maps, one set in Myrak Valley and the other a remake of the fan favorite from Battlefield 3, Operation Firestorm. These 2 maps include the full complement of vehicles like Liberation Peak, along with a more vast combat space. So that just needs no more explanation. We're going to get those bigger maps and they're going to be very interesting to play. About modes, when it comes to Rush, the conversation we observed wasn't just about player count, but also about how maps play and the tactical experience they offer. Rush is a mode with deep roots, originally known as Gold Rush in Bad Company, where matches typically range from 12v12 to 16 versus 16 players. Many of you remember this as the golden era of Rush, and it continues to inspire our approach today. We've experimented with larger player counts over the years, such as 64 and even 128 player versions. While these matches created intense, fast-paced moments, they also led to issues. Overwhelming defenses, stalled front lines, and too many games ending in the first sector. Rush is especially sensitive to higher player counts due to its tactical and strategic requirements. When a player tries to arm the MCOM while more than 20 opponents are defending, the intended gameplay becomes less tangible, and based on feedback throughout recent titles, we're lowering the default player count for Rush to improve the flow of combat and restore the tactical, methodical experience that defines the mode. For those who enjoy large-scale Rush, Portal will allow you to experiment with different player counts at launch. So this basically shows a very good understanding of what's going on in the game. These guys actually mean business. It's obvious because they understand what's going on with the modes. Like, they understand that higher player counts will not always result in better games. These guys know what's going on. They know how Rush works. They know how Breakthrough and Conquest work, and they're actually, learning their lessons from 2042 as well. In contrast, Breakthrough is designed to accommodate higher player counts of up to 64 players, and that's where the mode really shines. Using win-loss data from the open beta, we're continuing to make map-by-map balance adjustments towards our goal of 50-50 win ratio for both attackers and defenders. And the approach to player counts is really interesting here as well. There was some confusion around the number of players in different games, so we wanted to take a moment to clarify our current direction for how these get determined. Rather than lock in maps and modes to a fixed player count, our philosophy is to adapt to best fit the intended experience. This may vary by map or evolve over time with player feedback. For example, at launch, some Breakthrough layouts will support 48 players, while others will have 64 players. It's the one of many factors we adjust to create the right balance and feel for each scenario. In Breakthrough, higher player counts work well on open, dynamic maps, while smaller player groups offer a more focused experience on denser maps. Portal gives players the flexibility to try different settings and find what works best for their group and playstyle. Finding the right balance is an ongoing process as everyone gets familiar with map size, lanes, and combat spaces. For now, we found that 8 vs 8 provides a solid starting point for small-scale, fast-paced modes like Team Deathmatch, Squad Deathmatch, Domination, and King of the Hill. Now, this is very interesting, and this actually, again, shows you how deep these guys are working in the game and how deep the understanding is actually. These guys are actually making some effort to balance things map by map. So you might get Breakthrough in Cairo and it's 48 players. However, you might get Breakthrough in Operation Firestorm and it's 64 players. They are balancing based on modes and maps. They don't want a fixed player counts because, like it or not, 64 players in maps like Cairo, for example, will be just too much. It will be too chaotic for a game mode like Breakthrough. Maybe not for Conquest, but for Breakthrough, it will definitely just break the mode. So this, in my opinion, is a very good philosophy right there. For playlist options, a limited variety of playlist options were created for the open beta to both showcase and test the flexibility of the matchmaking system. Playing with both open and closed weapons will continue to be options in Battlefield 6, and we're looking for ways to keep them easily accessible. And about this entire playlist option, open versus closed, I was one of the guys who actually believed that open class system is just trash and we have to get rid of this, right? After playing the open beta, in my opinion, as long as we have carbines, closed weapons just don't mean anything, because what's it gonna be, bro? People are playing recon with carbines. Carbines have the M417, you have the AK-205, and you have the M4 with a bunch of other weapons that will probably just be assault rifles, but in a different category, right? For example, the M417 is literally just a battle rifle and it's called a carbine. And the M4, as you guys know, was really overpowered. So as long as we have carbines as universal weapon category, it really doesn't make sense to just close weapons and lock them to classes, because people will just pick a carbine, use it as an assault rifle, and that's going to be it. So truth be told, I just prefer sticking to the open class instead of having them both, only to not see the entire community being split into two parts. I don't want that, and especially in less populated regions, that's going to make some huge problems when it comes to matchmaking and, finding a lobby and trying to populate a lobby. And finally, let's take a look at some statistics. We have some interesting stuff going on here. We have something about 420 million total matches played and 92.5, almost 92.5 million hours of gameplay. But there's something very interesting. We have something like 5 billion enemies killed and friendlies revived are only 30 million. And bro, that is just ridiculous. It's a simple math. Out of every 160 players who die, only one of them, guys, gets revived. And this is very accurate because even those who die in vehicles can actually be revived. That is just ridiculous. That shows how inactive medics are, really, when it comes to playing a Battlefield game. And it's not about tourists and those kind of bullshit, in my opinion, because that is just ridiculous, calling people tourists. In every single Battlefield game, that has been the case with medics. They're selfish most of the times and they just play for the benefits. They don't want to revive. So let's forget about that and take a look at people playing different classes. So right here, we have 32% of the people playing Assault, while only 26% playing Support, 23% playing Engineer, and only 19% playing Recon. So as you can see, there's a slight balance right there, in my opinion. It's not totally unbalanced. There's no hard bias towards a specific class. That just shows how good the balancing is, even for an open beta. I'm pretty sure on release, things will be even better. So that's about today's video, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed and hope this video was somewhat informative. You make sure to go down in the comment section. Let me know what you think about the video. Let me know what you think about the movement, the exploits that I just showed you guys. If you have played the open beta, which I'm pretty sure a lot of you have, just let me know what your thoughts are about that. And thank you all guys for watching. Until next time, guys, stay cool.